let you know as soon as we do. We have a call to action. School District 49 on Thursday, February 10th, 6 o'clock at 3850 Ponytrex Drive. Support conservative board members who are voting to remove Peter Hiltz. If you oppose teaching CRT, which we do, you should come and speak. Let them know your thoughts about that. Get in there. Okay, we're taking donations for the tech team. They're extra busy this evening because we have so much going on. It's been a lot of work, and it will be this evening. We're streaming for Greg Lopez, and Danielle's got her folks here going to be streaming this event this evening. So we want to make sure that you treat them right and throw some donations in the bucket, either on that back counter or at our spot outside at Spunky Patriots' desk. And then one last thing. Oh, that was it. So next, let's see. Let me see what's next. I would like the team, the leadership team of Spunky Patriots, to come on up here. Okay, that'll work. All right, we've got our leadership team here. I already introduced myself, and so we're going to move on down the line. First of all, a lot of you already know this. I got very upset about what was going on in the world today, and especially around our country, and I prayed to God very hard. What can I do? And this is the answer to prayer. So God's in charge of this, and as we can see by looking around the room, this is working. God's amazing. So thank you for coming. And then I called my wonderful friend Carla and said, hey, let's do this. And there she was, and she also made this amazing. So here, I'll let her talk to you, and we'll go down the line here.
Hi, I'm Carla Wilder. That's all you need to know.
Hi, I'm Larissa Odell. I am the timer/whip for all of our speakers.
Ginger Coleman, website design, event design, and email.
Cheryl Dingwell-Kekritz, and several months ago I became a volunteer at the GOP office. And then I was lucky enough to know Carla, who told me about this group, and I said, count me in.
Kathy Hellwig, I was sitting at home for the last 2 years just getting pissed off and not knowing what to do. And Kathy told me about this starting up, and so I joined, and I'm admin.
So we started in September with 16 women sitting around the living room. Yep. That's what we did.
Here you go. Kathy. Pledge.
Awesome. That's me.
That's
my big job.
Let us know what you're doing.
If everyone could stand, we're going to say the pledge. I'm sorry, I got to give instructions. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Woo! Yeah. And he's just been a real blessing to us all.
blossom will ascend like dust, because they have rejected the law of the Lord of hosts and despised the word of the Holy One of Israel. So I want to pray for our country. I'm grieved at what's going on. I don't know about you guys, but will you bow your hearts with me? Lord, we call on the great God of heaven. We pray that you would give us a second chance. Lord, we repent. One race, the human race, claiming that marriage isn't between a man and a woman. God, you created marriage as a picture of you, Jesus, and your bride. And God, we know that, and yet we've made a mockery of it. God, would you forgive us? And probably the most heinous crime of all, Lord, the 70 million babies' blood that cries out from the ground. God, would you forgive us? Would you straighten us out, Lord? Would you bring us to repentance and bring revival back to our nation, that we would become one nation under God again?
I haven't been in politics in the last couple years because I have 4 kids that I was trying to focus on. And then I'm like, oh my gosh, what are they doing up at the state capitol? And so I started getting involved when they started passing House Bill 19-1032. And I'm like, these are a bunch of Democrats trying to put in a Nazi-based Keynesian sex education bill. What am I going to do to get through to them in 10 minutes or 2 minutes? So I went to a dirty bookstore, or dirty store, and I got a prop for educational purposes. I got one for every member in the committee, the Health and Insurance Committee, and I got some large things for them to use as they would make a 9-year-old use in a classroom in 4th grade. And when I handed this to them, the Democrat leading the meeting, she felt like this was hours. We were like, it was like 9 o'clock. This had been going on for hours. We've been waiting and waiting and waiting to sit. And her head, when she looked into that bag and saw those educational materials, her head just fell into her hands in shame. And you know, that's the shame is in their hearts. And we can do things in the state capitol to just really promote Republican values, Christian values. The science is on our side. The God is on our side. And I think we have the people on our side as well. We have freedom. We have the Constitution. We have the law of God. And we also have the laws that were passed after Nazi Germany. to make sure that this never happens again. So I've been kind of in books, researching vaccines, researching vaccine history. Let me just say, cowpox is not the preventative for smallpox. Thank you, Summer, for House District 18.
Yep.
All right. My name is David Winnie, and as your next Secretary of State, I commit Is that part of the 2 minutes too? Okay. I commit to return Colorado, reclaim truth and transparency, and with my tenacity and my background, to the proper running of the business of Colorado and the elections. I call for a comprehensive forensic audit of the 2020 elections. The first day that I step into office, I will initiate a comprehensive and forensic audit of all of the election processes. And we have a research team right now that's studying all the statutes and all the rules and regulations, and even Jenna Griswold's little handbook that she gives to all the clerk and recorders, so that we can know all the things that need to be dug out and rooted out to get rid of all the corruption and return transparency back to all of us. So I've never run for an elected office before. I have a career, long-term successful career in IT and project management. So I have the background that it takes to do this. Now, when people have known me 30, 40 years, they go, David, I didn't know that you're interested in getting into politics. And I go, I'm not. What is politics? What is politics? Poly means many, and ticks are bloodsuckers. So we need to get the bloodsuckers out of there. There's way too many of them, and they're sucking all of our blood. Go back to statesmen that represent us.
Well, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Peter Lupia, and I'm running for your clerk and recorder position here in El Paso County. Thank you. So let me tell you what my 3 priorities are. Make sure we cover those. Election security. We're going to get rid of Dominion. I'm going to be your strongest advocate for making that happen. We're going to go with the county commission and cancel those contracts. I'd like to see us go back to, and these are the plans I'll submit, hand-counted ballots at the precinct level. Our second priority will be election integrity. Of course, we all know there's a lot of things to handle there. Primarily, we need to stand against the unconstitutional and unlawful orders that come down from our current Secretary of State. Dave Winnie, hopefully, will be there to change that, but we're going to stand against that. We're going to stand in the gap and make sure that our local elections are our local elections, not controlled by the state. And last but not least, I want to find better ways to serve this community. I believe we could use some new service centers on the north and east sides of the county to save folks from having to come all the way into town. And there's lots of opportunities to get rid of those fees that we voted down as taxes and get those back in your pocket as well. So we have an important decision to make, ladies and gentlemen, as we're looking to our next clerk and recorder. We can have more of the same, or we can take back what belongs to we the people. And so I'm going to ask you to join me and fight for election security, election integrity, transparency, and taking back El Paso County and making it a place that we love. I'm Peter Lupia. I'm here to turn the tide. Vote peterlupia.com. Please stop by and see us outside. Thank you.
Hi there, I'm Dave Donaldson. Currently, I serve on City Council. I represent District 1 here in Colorado Springs. I'm running for House District 16, which is right across the street here, just on the other side of Academy. But I want to start off by telling you a joke or a cartoon that I saw. It was back around Halloween time. Actually, he's in the joke. So it's Halloween, and Sleepy Joe is at the door handing out candy. And at the door on the other side, you know, coming up to get the candy is a little boy dressed as a cowboy, a little girl dressed as a princess, and their mother is standing behind them. And Sleepy Joe goes, "Oh, a little cowboy, a little princess, and a domestic terrorist." And that's a part of the problem in our country is our government sees good patriotic Americans like you as a threat, you and me. So I spent 21 years in the Army. Part of that time I was a Green Beret. I was in Special Forces out at Fort Carson. I went in as an enlisted guy. I was promoted to major before I left. I spent 3 years in Iraq, 3 different tours. At that time I was already doing work as a PA. And when I was in SF, our crest, which I have on my cards, which I'm happy to give out to folks when I talk to you after this, the motto on it is De Oppresso Liber, which means to liberate the oppressed. And I always thought I'd have to go to a foreign country to fight to do that, right? To liberate the oppressed. But it's really just not true anymore. As some of you know, I serve on the Board of Health. And when your government tells you you have to get these vaccines after you've already had the disease, and I've only got 5 seconds, and you have antibodies, but you have to get it to keep your job, we're being oppressed right in this country. Thank you. Dave Donaldson, HD 16.
Thank you.
Hello, Colorado Patriots and fellow believers. My name is Shauna Black, and I am running for state representative in House District 18. House District 18 has been controlled by Democrats for more than 20 years, and Coloradans deserve better. I am a constitutionalist, I'm a patriot, I'm a Christian, I'm an attorney. I want to take Colorado District 18 back from the Democrats. I moved to Colorado in 2013 because Colorado was free. I'm a refugee from Commie, California, and I have seen firsthand the damage that liberal policies and leftist politicians can do to a beautiful state, and I don't want it to happen here. I don't want it to happen here. When I came here, I felt the freedom when I crossed the state line, and little by little, I see it being taken away. And I'm here to fight for Colorado and House District 18 to make sure that that doesn't happen. We deserve to live in a free society. We are created by God. We are endowed by our Creator with inalienable rights given to us by God that shall not be infringed. One, I don't co-parent with the government, neither do you. No vaccine mandates. They can't tell us what to put in our bodies or what to put in our children's bodies. That's number one. Number two, we also, again, don't co-parent with the government. We are the authority over our children's education, not the government. We deserve to live in communities where the police are the good guys and the bad guys go to jail. Where we can fill up our gas tanks and put food on the table. We deserve smaller government, more freedom, more liberty. That's what brings prosperity. Thank you, Shauna Black, House District 18.
First of all, I'd like to say that, well, I'm Ken DeGraff. I'm running for House District 22. Ken DeGraff for HD22.com. And first of all, I'd like to say I'm really excited about this group of POMs. And by POMs, I mean pissed off moms. And this is phenomenal that this group here, and that I had to drive around the parking lot about 3 times before I found a parking spot. So that's pretty awesome. What we need to do going into this is we need to get our republic back. We need to get rid of the Democrats. But first, we need to get rid of the Republicans who are Democrats. And if we're going to do that, we need to know what the values of our republic are. If we're going to represent it as Republicans, we need to know. And those values, they've been touched on. We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights, that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, that to secure these rights, governments are instituted among men, deriving their just powers from the consent of the governed. And we need to stick with that. We are endowed by nature's God and nature's law as sovereign citizens, and we have that sovereignty as image bearers of a sovereign God. Our individual sovereignty is being pulled at by what we typically call the left, and that is the left, and that is the God state trying to pull the sovereignty away from us. So we need to continue to battle, and we need to get laws. We need to get rid of laws, and we need to pull ourselves back again to the right. So again, I'm running for you to be House District 22 representative. Even if you can't vote for me, I can vote for you. And I look forward to helping you get rid of first the Republicans who are Democrats, and then the Democrats.
Thank you. It's bright up here. Hello, my name is Steve Noblet. I'm running for El Paso County Sheriff. What a great crowd. Thank you for coming out tonight. The last couple of years I've sat and I've watched as law enforcement has been villainized and criminals have been empowered. And I decided to run for sheriff. One of the things that I'll be working on is to fight these government overreach and these bad laws that are being implemented that are stifling our ability to be cops, to be able to be law enforcement and to protect you and be good cops and do what we need to do to keep our society safe. But there is evil in Denver that is working real hard to limit what your cops can do every single day. And if you're not familiar with Senate Bill 217, you should read it. They outlawed headlocks. They outlawed our ability, every single person we contact, we got to fill out contact cards and give business cards and tell people how they can complain on us. Every single person that we contact. Body cameras on every cop. Don't forget to turn your body camera on, because if you do, you get in trouble. There's a dozen different things that cops have to do just to talk to somebody these days. And that's all a result of shortly after the riots, this all took effect. But anyways, well, I'm going to fight that. In addition to that, I think the next sheriff of this county needs to come from outside of the office. I'm not within the office. I've been a police officer for over 28 years. The last 25 of it has been right here in Colorado Springs. I'm a lieutenant with the Colorado Springs Police Department, and I've proudly been protecting your constitutional rights for the last 25 years right here in this county. I'm going to continue to do that. I say no to mask mandates, no to red flag laws, no to vaccine mandates, no to any government overreach, and I'll fight it with everything I have, and I will defend your Second Amendment. Have a good night, and thank you.
Hello, El Paso. Hi, my name's Kevin Conrad, and I am your next senator for Senate District 35. I have been in the trenches, grassroots, since 2006. My first campaign was a governor's campaign. I was just an intern, but ever since then, I've advised, helped, or volunteered to help Republicans get elected over the years. I'm there right with you. I've spent 2 years in Senate leadership working for the whip. I know the tactics of the left. They're not very smart, so they're pretty easy to get control of. In the Senate, there's a few tools that we have in our belt to slow them down, and I mean slow them down, run out the clock. And we can confuse them, and when it comes time, they don't know what they want. At the end of the day, I invite you to get to know me. I've been working heavily with young Republicans. I have a list of endorsements of young Republicans that I've gotten involved in the party, who are now running for office, who are excited, and we're trying to change and get fresh blood into the Senate, into the House, into every office. It's unacceptable that we have seats that are not being challenged by a Republican right now, where a Democrat is running unopposed. We're gonna fix that. Also, in the Senate, I plan on, and working behind the scenes, we're gonna build that firewall against the governor. I'm gonna tell you right now, I've got some things going on where we've got young Republicans who are going to get elected, and we're gonna take the Senate majority back. My name is Kevin Conrad. Come see me afterwards. I invite you to go to my website, Conrad for Colorado. Thank you.
Well, hello, everyone. How are you? My name is Rebecca Kelty, and I'm running for Congress for Colorado's 5th Congressional District. I'm running to replace Doug Lamborn. Thank you. I had a speech prepared, but actually I made a small list, and I thought you guys might like to hear what my list has on it. CRT, mandates, unsecure borders, stolen elections, illegals treated better than our own veterans, free trade over fair trade, depending on other countries for our manufacturing, our Constitution under attack every single day, losing our freedoms, complacent politicians, states' rights ignored, parental rights ignored, dictatorship government, out of control spending, needless wars, China's grip on the United States, giving money to countries who actually hate us, and career politicians. These are the things that I am sick and tired of, and I hope that you are too. These are the things that I will, in DC, fight for you every single day. I don't plan on just representing you. I plan on fighting for you, because unless we actually start doing something now, we are going to lose the country that we hold so dearly. I fought for this country for 21 years in the United States Navy. Every single day, I put my, thank you. I didn't just take an oath every 4 years, 6 years when I did my reenlistment. Every time I put my uniform on, I took an oath to support and defend the Constitution and this country. I actually took an oath to die for every single American in this country every single day. And I plan, wow there. I love you too, honey. But I plan on doing that every day for you. I'm sorry. I'm out of time, but if you guys could go to my website, it's RebeccaKelty.com. You can find out more information about me. You will know that I am the outsider coming in. President Trump, Lauren Boebert, Marjorie Taylor Greene, we're outsiders. I am the fighter that you want. Thank you very much.
Good evening, Patriots. How are you this evening? My name's Julie Henry, and I'm running for State House District 21. I am fighting for small businesses, our freedoms, no vax, no mask. I'm fighting for our children. I have a doctor's degree in special education, so I have a lot of patience. And being with my husband, a lot of patience. I have a lot of patience until the B switch turns on. When you fight with my freedoms, when you fight with my country, 33 years ago I took an oath, and my oath does not end until the day I die. I am prior Army. My husband is retired military Army. My son just got out of the military, and my son-in-law is a recruiter in the military. So my son-in-law, we kind of have this little joke. He's the only legal sex trafficker or, child trafficker in the state. So, but no, they trying to get our military in. Biden is trying to cut our military in half. So what they're doing now, as him being a recruiter, they send their troops up to MEPS that want to join. The MEPS station can look back in their medical records at any medications they've been on since they were a baby. If they were on this medication, they could not get out of the military, or they could not join the military. So that is a way to cut our military in half. Our students, CRT needs to get the hell out of our school. Canceled culture needs to get the hell out of our school. My granddaughter is 5 years old. When she lived in Ohio, they told her that the government owned her and she had to do exactly what they said. My granddaughter called me crying from school. She has her little tablet I gave her so she can just call mom, dad, or grandma. Well, Nima. She called me and I told her, you know what? You tell them God owns you, nobody owns you, and your parents have the rights over you, not the government.
Well, good evening. So I am Todd Watkins, candidate for El Paso County Sheriff. I would ask you to come visit me out in the lobby and sign my petition, but I don't have one. I believe in the voice of the people, and I'm going to submit myself to assembly to the will of the people. I am the people's sheriff. I want to give your government back to you because it belongs to you. Earlier today, I testified for Ron Hanks' bill. Ron Hanks, the Senate candidate extraordinaire, presented a bill before our Marxist overlords at the State House to introduce constitutional carry to this state. Everybody know what constitutional carry is? It's this versus this. So I just wanted to read an excerpt from what I read to them, and you decide the kind of people that you want running the government, because this was shot down 8-4. Contrary to statements made by the current White House administration, it just felt right. Our rights enshrined by the United States Constitution are in fact absolute. The Bill of Rights is inviolable, and it is regrettable that legislation is necessary to enforce this fact. I submit to you that the sheriff has the power, the authority, and the duty to enforce that absent legislation. I will not enforce any law, regulation, mandate, order that is contrary to the Constitution. And free Tina Peters.
Hi, ladies and gentlemen. I'm State Representative Dave Williams, and I'm running for United States Congress. Just to piggyback off of Todd, I was one of the 4 that voted for constitutional carry. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm running for United States Congress because, like you, I'm tired of those hypocrites who say one thing on the campaign trail, and then when they get into the office, they do something different. And I'm not just talking about Democrats. I'm talking about rhinos. Ladies and gentlemen, let me ask you something. Are you guys familiar with H.R. 16250? It funded Planned Parenthood by the tune of $500 million. It restricted gun rights, and it funded sanctuary cities. Does anyone want to take a guess who voted for that? Doug Lamborn. You guys already knew the answer. I was going to say AOC and go all through the thing, but yeah, it was Doug. Ladies and gentlemen, the point is that we are not getting the leadership that we need in this district. We need a Marjorie Taylor Greene. We need a Lauren Boebert. We need a Jim Jordan. We need a Madison Cawthorn representing this district. This is a safe Republican district, and we need a Republican fighter who's going to go into Washington and go kick some ass. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm running for United States Congress because I'm going to fight against CRT. I'm going to fight for your Second Amendment rights. I'm going to fight to get rid of Dominion and secure our elections. I don't know if you guys saw recently, but Mitch McConnell, he said that January 6th was an insurrection. Is that the kind of Republican that you want in Washington? Not at all. Ladies and gentlemen, it is time. To everything, there's a season, and this is the season of change that we need in El Paso County. If you elect me, I'm going to go there and fight for you each and every day, just as I have been doing in Denver, just as I have been doing for the 6 years that I have been a state representative for House District 15. Ladies and gentlemen, this is my solemn promise to you. If you vote for me, I will vote for you each and every day I'm at the Capitol. Please visit my website at daveforcolorado.com. That's daveforcolorado.com. And let's go, Brandon!
Okay, I'm starting over. This woman I'm introducing to you right now, I have adored for many, many years on Fox News and now on other alternative news media because she got so smart, as we all did. I would like to introduce you to Michelle Malkin, who is a mom, journalist, conservative blogger, author, entrepreneur, and as I like to call her, a badass. Welcome to Michelle Malkin. Woo!
Woo! I thought for a second there I'd have to give my whole speech in 2 minutes. It's actually a heck of a lot harder to condense your thoughts, and maybe I should do that. Somebody should have a timer and let's see if I can summarize 30 years of a career in the public eye. And no, thank you. Because over the last 3 decades that I've been out of the closet as a proud American patriot fighting for freedom, it's really the inspiration that I draw from the grassroots. And I mean, I feel at home here. So thank you for welcoming me, and thank you for waiting, because of course it was slightly delayed as I got the you know what, and now have my natural immunity. That's the only immunity we need. Thank you, Spunky Patriots. Man, somebody should get that as a website URL. Is it already taken? All right, well, you know, it's going to be banned soon, so. And I certainly have been a canary in the cancel culture coal mine. I definitely want to get into all of that. But like one of the previous brief speakers here mentioned, it took me a while to hike from the human being through the parking lot here. I am just so fired up that so many of you are here and present and ready to defy. Defy. The Spunky Patriots asked me what my topic was going to be, and I gave them a general title: Defiance or Compliance, a new time for choosing. And particularly over the last 2 years, it is our precious children and grandchildren whose time frame has been accelerated in a way that we could have never predicted for them. And as parents, watching so many of them stand up for themselves and defy the regime in all of its forms, it is not easy. As somebody who moved out to Colorado as a fellow refugee, And I did do my tour of duty in California for a little bit. That's where I started my journalism career. But after 10 years in that swamp, I was called, my family was called. We didn't know anybody here in Colorado. We didn't have any connections. But it was, quite literally and providentially, a place where we could focus on our family. And those of you who know me, and my life has been an open book, I always like to joke, unlike Barack Obama's and his mystery years at Columbia. Everybody remembers that, right? My entire biography is an open book, and I never tire because I hear from so many who have stories like mine of immigrant parents who sacrificed everything to ensure the American dream for their children. And I have to tell you that my mom and dad look at what this country has been allowed to become, and I echo every single candidate who is up here and every single one of you in this room who understands that we can't simply blame the Democrats and the liberals for all of this. The shame that my own parents feel in having established a home here, what they thought was a sanctuary, and now see that their grandchildren are not protected from the ravages of tyranny and oppression. That in fact, so many of the jewels of America, places that we traveled to when I was a child, every major metropolitan center in this country, reminds them of the third world hellhole they escaped. Shame. It is a shame. And it would be a shame if I sat on the sidelines, if I retired, if I gave up after 30 years of a very blessed and comfortable life to sit back and watch it all fall apart and not honor God and my parents and the founders of this country and my fellow citizens and defy with every bone in my body. And I know you all feel the same way too. And I know that so many of you have followed my career over the years and mostly have known me from the head up. Usually being very spunky, to use a word. Battling it out on some 3-minute segment on cable TV. But that is just such a small part of who I am and what I've done with my constitutionally protected First Amendment rights, which are shrinking, as you all know, and I'll get into that in a second here. But I have worn proudly not just the label journalist and now badass, thank you, Spunky, but also activist. And I think it's incredibly important to be engaged, and I see so many of you, and I hear you. I love the rowdiness of this crowd and the acceptance that we can't just always be in a position of calm, quietude, and meekness. I looked up at the emblem of Fervent Church before I came in, and it's got 2 shields crossing. And it reminded me of a phrase that my mom has used often in advising me to always gird my loins. And I know from the knowing approbation in this audience that each and every one of you wakes up in the morning and puts on your whole armor of God. Your whole armor of God. And when you are armed with the sword of the Spirit and shields and boots and belts of truth and righteousness, we have no fear. And we're impervious to lies and propaganda and controllers' false narratives. We don't panic. And this is the immunity. These are the shields that we, as parents and grandparents, are obligated to confer upon the next generation of American fighters and American defiers and American non-compliers. I want to talk about 3 policy areas and interests of mine that I have reported on for so many years, and share a couple of personal stories. And it will, of course, overlap with the platforms and the agendas of many of the candidates that you will be choosing, a new time for choosing, coming up this year. These candidates, all of them, will take public positions and issue papers and take stands in debates. But this is also a time where, more than ever, the wheat and the chaff are being separated. And the phonies and the real deals are being exposed. And you can tell when somebody stands up and is naked before you on a stage. And by the way, I've told this story to every college campus and school audience that I've ever talked to, because if there are young people in the audience, I want you to know this about me. I wasn't always confident in public speaking. I was very shy. I failed my 7th grade speech class because I looked at all the eyes staring back at me, and I ran out of the room. And a rather generous grader of my 7th grade English teacher gave me a C instead of what my tiger mom thought I deserved, which was an F. Thank you, Mom, sincerely. But when somebody bears their soul to you and tries to sell you themselves, you can tell when they truly believe what they're telling you. And you can tell within the first 5 seconds of the impression that they leave whether or not they're going to be strong enough to stand by the positions that they take when they're campaigning if you send them to Washington, D.C. or any other elected office, local, state, and federal. So within 5 seconds of you listening to them for the first time on the radio or seeing them on TV or hearing them here or at events like this in your own backyards, you know, come on. And yet time and time again, we have the miserable, feckless leadership in DC that everybody complains about, but then when it comes time, push to shove, gets reelected over and over and over again. You have a choice. It is a new time for choosing. And either you will choose rock-ribbed, devoutly American candidates of faith who will be true to the Constitution, or you will elect those rhinos, or whatever you call them, and be disappointed and be sold out. Enough. Enough already. Defiance or compliance. It holds with regard to mask mandates and vax mandates and election integrity and borders and education policy, and it certainly applies, defiance or compliance, to whether the GOP elite can expect you to slavishly elect the same weak, feckless people over and over again. Enough! Will you comply or will you defy? I defy. I defy. I wrote a column once where I talked about the culture of compliance. And I want to read you what I said, because I try to teach this to my own kids. I try to practice what I preach. I don't always succeed, but I strive always. What you permit, you promote. What you allow, you encourage. What you condone, you own. And what you tolerate, you deserve. There are so many moments and milestones in my professional and personal life where I just end up with that phrase that it hurts, but it's just 2 words. Reap, sow. Reap, sow. How can any one of us who's participated in any manner in civic life, as parents, as political activists, in my case as a journalist, on the internet in any capacity, look at what's become of the mess of America and think to themselves, how did this happen? Go figure. As if some ineluctable, out-of-body forces somehow squandered the legacy that we had been blessed with. It didn't just happen by benign neglect, but by malign destruction. And in so many cases, it was an alliance of, again, that operatic leitmotif over and over again, not just the left, but by conspirators and allies on the so-called right. Yes, we need to clean the swamp. Yes, we need to clean house. Yes, we need to get Pelosi and Biden and Kamala and the first gentleman out of there. Okay? But we can't really focus on those goals until we clean our own house. Let's talk medical freedom, shall we? I am most energized, and even despite how dire and apocalyptic and dark the world has become for the brave souls, and we are the majority, there's no question about it. We are. Despite the screws that have been turned, look at what's happening. Our mild-mannered neighbors to the north, up there, launching a convoy. Woo-hoo! Woo-hoo! Yeah! And driving out, I love this phrase, I don't take credit for it, Coward 19 infected Justin Trudeau. It's not just big government, it's not just big pharma, it's also big tech. The trifecta, the axis of evil that is doing everything possible to snuff out this burgeoning worldwide movement. The joint immunity that we have together is so potent, it cannot and will not be stopped. When some of the very first protests started erupting, and I did one here a couple of years ago, just as the whole terror was getting underway, and I was blessed to stand by, God bless him, Robert F. Kennedy Jr. We testified at a state hearing, and Dave was there, to try and salvage and defend the religious and philosophical exemptions to vaccine mandates. And this is a topic that I had been warning about for a long time. And I want to tell you about my own personal experience. Because what people are beginning to understand and what's so dangerous is unvaccinated people are not a threat to public health. They're not a threat to society. We're a threat to authority. And I first started questioning, or as the elitist globalists put it, starting expressing hesitancy. Vaccine hesitancy. Can you imagine all of these globalists in Davos, Switzerland somewhere, trying to come up with the rhetoric and the talking points? Oh, how about vaccine hesitant? No, vaccine defiant, okay? Vaccine defiant. But when my daughter, as a newborn, without questioning, because as a young new parent, you pretty much just accept everything that's been told to you. If I had to do it all over again, I wouldn't have done it. But we had a second chance when we had my son. He was born in November 2003, and in January 2004, at the very beginning of the year, whatever it was, the 6-week or 8-week checkup, well, even before that, when he was born, Hep B vaccine was on the list. And I had my laptop with me at the time because I was trying to file a column after giving birth. And so, of course, Google wasn't as algorithm plagued as it is now. And I wanted to know what this vaccine was. Well, as those of you in the audience who didn't just blindly accept this for yourselves or your own children know, this is a lifestyle vaccine for people who might get Hep B through intravenous drug use and promiscuous sex, which I wasn't planning on allowing my newborn son to engage in at any time soon. So as part of my manifestation of vaccine hesitancy, I simply asked the hospital, along with my husband, if we could delay the administration of this one shot, which of course is among a plethora of all other shots on the schedule, which at the time, being still groggy after having given birth, I didn't have time to research. Informed consent with regard to these jabs is a complete, total, and utter joke. And it is a basic and massive violation of informed consent principles, basic bio and medical ethical principles, let alone Nuremberg principles, to shove these jabs into the arms of newborn babies whose parents have no idea what they're doing. That was me. And I tell this story time and time again because we shouldn't feel shame. And we certainly shouldn't feel intimidation by medical bullies. Well, speaking of medical bullies, when it came time to one of the first newborn visits with my son, with our pediatrician, they asked why, after several weeks, we still hadn't administered this vaccine. My son hadn't felt well. He had all the other toxic storm of all the other vaccines. I said, well, I'm not saying that we're never going to do it, just not yet. And she wasn't willing to wait. So she cast us out in the spring of 2004, ejected us from the pediatrics practice in the name of public health and safety, of course, because we're the real threats. We are the threats to authority, not public health and not to society. The second story I want to remind you about is something that happened during I believe it was the 2008 or 2012 presidential campaign. And a very popular Republican named Rick Perry was the governor of Texas at the time and running for president. And I learned from grassroots spunky moms in Texas that Rick Perry had, by executive order, regulated that all middle school students in Texas, both girls and boys, submit to the HPV Gardasil vaccine as a condition for education. Go it. Google it if you have to. Hold your noses. It's still there. I checked. All the reporting that I did on this at the time. And it illustrated my investigative journalistic mantra, which is follow the money to find the truth. And the truth was that Rick Perry didn't care about the health and safety of Texas school children. We're talking about the reddest of the red state in America, acting like left-wing authoritarians because all of his top staff bolted his governor's mansion and became lobbyists for Merck, the manufacturer of the Gardasil vaccine. I'm sure many of you today saw the massively gobsmacking, huge figure of Pfizer profits, right? All of the pandemic profiteers. Where do they put their money? Into the pockets of dangerous public health menaces in elected office who do their bidding and violate their constitutional oaths. Trump was wrong. And we have to say it, we have to hold him accountable. Because Operation Warp Speed was the superhighway for all of these pandemic profiteers. They have been waiting. They have been rubbing their hands. Couldn't wait. And the plans, as we all know, were in place a long, long time ago. In 2019, I wrote a column about the WHO working with big tech to stamp out so-called vaccine hesitancy on Twitter and Facebook. This was the spring of 2019, months and months and months before we would all know the terms COVID-19 and Wuhan. And Rand Paul, God bless him, one of the good ones in the swamp, had raised questions at a Senate hearing about the VAERS database and called attention to what we all know now, but so many did not know and took for granted, called attention to the fact that unlike almost any other industry in America, Big Pharma is immune from liability. That's the only immunity they have that works. And what I said in this column in 2019 was, of course, the obvious point about the slippery slope. That vaccines and our attitudes about them were pretextual. And if it wasn't this, it would be something else. It's just a vehicle, a means by which thought police and controllers and gatekeepers can keep us scared and marginalized and ostracized. And, by the way, tracked. And I know so many of the moms especially, not to shade the dads in here, but it's really for as long as I've been active in fighting on education issues, and even here in Colorado Springs, when my kids were younger and in the public schools, it's the moms who know. It's the moms who understand that, of course, every politician now says CRT, but why aren't they talking about SEL? And why aren't they talking about the complete metastasis of big tech in the schools? Here, in every school district in El Paso County and Colorado. The fact that you have to have a Google logon, and they're forcing the students to do this in order to get access to any classroom materials, and this was predated COVID, without the consent and knowledge of the parents. Unfortunately, it was under both the Obama and Trump administrations that federal educational privacy rights and protection laws have been undermined through regulation by the Department of Education. And the jackpot of data that is being collected on our kids. You all remember that Merrick Garland last fall sicked the FBI and the CIA and goodness knows what other deep state operatives on dissident and renegade parents exercising their First Amendment rights to freedom of expression and association at school board meetings where their elected officials had sold them out. Of course, the motivating factor was critical race theory, and again, follow the money to find the truth, right? Merrick Garland's son-in-law profiting with a data mining company called Panorama, which is tracking and psychologically and ideologically profiling our children to make sure that they are conditioned and brainwashed to have the right, oh, no, not right, the left attitudes about race and culture in America. $76 million in investment for that company, Merrick Garland's son-in-law. So after Merrick Garland did this, the Biden Justice Department, through its office called the National Institute of Justice, provided untold hundreds of millions of dollars in federal justice grants, social justice, we all know, to school districts and state school boards across the country to pay so-called experts in extremism to train educators, mental health counselors, and school police and school resource officers. Wouldn't you like to know if some of that grant money has seeped into Colorado and El Paso County? I've just filed a syndicated column, and I think this is a good indication of just how much the Republicans are selling us out. Idaho, I just came back from a trip there. Reddest of the red, right? I think third or fourth behind Texas in being a red state. You'd think they'd be immune to Californication. They're not. The great lieutenant governor who was running to challenge the establishment rhino Republican Brad Little found out that his state board of education, he stocked it with all of these appointees since 2018, accepted $6,000 from this Biden National Institute of Justice program to train Idaho educators to police what they call right-wing extremism in the schools. And do you know who the lead trainer identified as right-wing extremist threats? Christians, gun owners, oath keepers, members of militias, and this would include me, and it explains why I'm always constantly being called a white supremacist. Never gets old. They also singled out people who warn about demographic revolution in this country through open borders and mass migration. That's Idaho. Is it happening here in ostensibly Republican El Paso County? I'd love you to go check. National Institute of Justice's school safety program, federal grants. Every single elected Republican at the local, state, and federal level should be crying bloody hell about it. Pardon my French. Okay? So you can go on Fox News and CNN and decry CRT and then do nothing while federally subsidized dollars are training educators to identify right-wing extremism in their schools. How many of you have kids in the public schools here right now? Private schools? Private schools? How many of you are homeschooling? Yeah. And somebody said charter schools. Any charter schools? Yeah. I've had experiences with all of them. Guess what? There's no sanctuary. There's really not. It's the spread of what many of my anti-Common Core mom patriots called a long time ago Fed Ed. Fed Ed? Yeah, we're fed up with Fed Ed. And what happens is it's not merely the subsidizing formally of these types of programs. There's a larger cultural acceptance and deference and surrender. And all of a sudden, it's like, this is what I was talking about to you just a minute ago, right? Well, how did this happen? Well, a lot of the school board members have been bought off. That's one of it. I mean, how do you think Common Core spread? Who do you think's responsible for Common Core? Okay, if you had to name one man who's more responsible for Common Core than anyone else, who would you say? Yeah. Jeb Bush. Ding, ding, ding. I give 5 stars to anybody who said it. Jeb Bush, the National Governors Association, shamefully Mike Pence. Hey, this is what you get when you sign me up for a speech. I will name the names, okay? Because, okay, I could still have a very comfortable existence as a mainstream behaving, non-rowdy, controlled media figure on Fox News and never say anything bad about Republicans, right? Except for Lindsey Graham. Apparently you can say things about Lindsey Graham, right? He's the one that you're allowed to diss on Fox News. Well, did anybody watch my CPAC speech several years ago? Which you can Google it, it's still on YouTube, or DuckDuckGo it, or I think it's on Rumble. How many of you use Rumble? Yeah. And Gab, where I called out the ghost of John McCain in the Republican Party. And I did point upwards, which I was being generous, I guess. But Spunky! Yeah, gotcha. That's the 35-minute mark, thank you. Not done yet. You know, you can have a comfortable life as a conservative pundit if you behave within certain parameters, right? And it's not a convenient narrative because, of course, it's fun and easy to talk about Obama fronting Common Core. But it wouldn't have happened without all of the big business alliances and the GOP elite who never suffer any of the consequences. Never. Okay? It doesn't matter if they put their kids in some Tony private school, Sidwell friends. And hey, I was in the swamp. I know a lot of those hypocrite Republicans who would moan and groan about the liberal indoctrination in the schools. And where were their kids? Going to school with the Chelsea Clintons and Obama daughters, right? Because it doesn't matter, because they've got name, they've got privilege, they've got money. Their kids have immunity. Our kids don't. The one thing that a lot of people know about me too is I made a conscious decision to protect my kids and take them out of the swamp. So there's a double refugee situation here, right? Because my parents moved here from the Philippines in order to ensure the American dream for their kids. And I moved from the swamp thinking that if I came to, at the time, Red Colorado 14 years ago, that my kids would be taken care of. There's never any completely safe space. So we've talked about medical freedom, we've talked about education. And the last thing I just want to touch on here, and I asked the organizers if I could open it up for questions if we have a little bit of time at the end. Raise the hands if we want to do that. All right, good. Not a lot of people want to ask me questions, that's okay. Probably because you can just still, for the time being, email me. I want to talk about law and order. 40 years ago, there was a very famous seminal essay printed in the Atlantic magazine, which was still sane at the time. And a UCLA criminology professor named James Q. Wilson along with his co-author, coined a very famous phrase called broken windows. Anybody familiar with what I'm talking? Yes, good. And the idea is that if you pay attention to the small signs of civil order in a society, that you will be able to maintain civil order. But breakdowns occur when you start ignoring small signs of disrepair. And this is what happened in New York City in the 1980s before Rudy Giuliani came along, okay? So small sort of quality of life crimes, jumping a turnstile in the subway, for example, or not fixing broken windows, or allowing graffiti to spread without cleaning it. This is how we get from a still fairly tolerable place to live to third world hellhole. Okay, and you can see where I'm going with this, how I'm crocheting all of these things together, right? Because we wake up in this anarcho-tyranny that we've lived under now for the last couple of years, post-George Floyd riots, the rise of Antifa, Black Lives Matter. Complete anarcho-tyranny is the term that Sam Francis coined. And we wonder how it happened. And it happened because we started tolerating the small violations. And so when I showed up at a Back the Blue rally in Denver a couple of years ago, I shouldn't have been shocked by what happened. And as many of you know, I've talked about this with my great friend Richard Randall since it happened. The Black Lives Matter worshiping police chief there had issued an actual stand-down order so that Antifa thugs and Black Lives Matter militants were allowed to stream into Civic Center Plaza and literally beat and assault the patriots that were there to back the blue. Broken windows theory shouldn't just be applied to Democrat cities like New York City. I've loved living in Colorado Springs these last 14 years. And one of the things I've loved most, as some of you know, is hiking the incline. I am a big addict. I almost gave it up when they started metering it and having a guard station there as performative theater. Everything is performative theater. We will keep you safe. We will limit the number of people, the few crazy people that do the incline in the first place, and make sure that they're socially distanced. Look, anytime I do the incline, I'm always the last one. There's, it's like 50 steps ahead of me. It's already naturally socially distanced. That's why we do it in the first place. But I've loved doing it now for, I started it, I've been doing it regularly for a decade. And about a year ago, something shocked me, and it made me very upset. And it was graffiti on a rock at the top of the incline. And then, as I was coming down Bar Trail, because my knees would not allow me to go down the incline, that is nuts. There's a public health threat for real. Going down the incline, just the beautiful scenery, and then taking a deep breath and smelling pot smoke. Okay, this is enraging to me. It's enraging to see, and I did something about it because I'm not just somebody who preaches, and I was so gratified that a couple of hundred other great Colorado Springs citizens joined me in the aftermath of the George Floyd riots at a Defend Our Monuments statue rally downtown, where the statue of General Palmer, illogically, but logic is not a strong suit of these goons, defaced with BLM graffiti. Now, Mind you, I am not running for Colorado Springs mayor. But it would seem to me that a Republican mayor of Colorado Springs would understand that law and order should be at the top of his list. I remember, I think it may be, I should have written it in my diary somewhere. The very first time I started seeing those homeless camps prop up. This is a disgrace. How do we tolerate this? How can you call yourself a Republican and allow these eyesores to metastasize across the city? Like, you can talk about anything else that you want to do, build a stadium, or I don't know what other thing developers want, okay? But job one, protect our home. Protect our home. Protect our people. I'll tell you one thing that the Narcotics and Surveillance Unit has been busy doing. A couple of months ago, I reported on a parent whose child at Chinook Trail Middle School, how many of you know what I'm about to talk about, was told to duct tape her mask to her face. Yes, she was pressured into doing this. And this Spunky mom stood up and did something about it. And I helped her and I reported on it. And I found out through public information that was gathered by another citizen who was concerned about this through a Public Information Act request, that the Narc and Surveillance Unit was monitoring my Gab account. Because I'm the real threat. Can't you just tell? I'm the racist, violent, hating extremist, and by extension, the parents that I write about are. That's Colorado Springs Police Department. That's what they're doing when home invasions in this city and murder and all of the quality of life crimes that Rudy Giuliani cleaned up in the 80s are now skyrocketing here? Is this what we want for Colorado Springs? Do we just comply because the dude has an R by his name? No, no. We have to defy all of this. I've defied it in small ways and large. And of course, one of the difficulties is now, for me, after 30 years of having a nationally syndicated column and creating 2 websites, and of course being on cable TV and having documentaries and shows, is that it's getting increasingly difficult for me to do that, as it has been for many other dissident journalists before me. I joked about how I felt at home here, and I might actually have to make it a home if Airbnb has its way. For some of you who don't know, I was banned from Airbnb for speaking to a group of American citizens at a lawful, peaceful gathering in Nashville, Tennessee last November. And I was informed a week after that speech, where I received a warm welcome, that I was now a known associate of hate groups and white supremacists. Airbnb's trust team, because you've got armies of these trust and safety officers, thought police, apparatchik, informed me that not only was I to be punished for my speech, which, by the way, they hadn't seen and didn't care to know the contents of, but that my husband, who is not a public figure and is really just the most laid-back, easygoing, not political activist guy. I mean, I'm the little brown woman with a brown mouth, and he's the guy who books hotels and plane tickets for me. Poor guy. He can now no longer book with Airbnb either for our family vacations, for his own work needs, for pickleball tournaments. The chilling thing, of course, is that this implicates my children. It is a very un-American proposition to hold children responsible for the alleged sins of their parents or their grandparents or their great-great-grandparents. And yet, it is part of the fundamental blueprint of the same people who brought us critical race theory, who hold innocent people guilty and responsible for the sins of their ancestors. See it all? Right? It all fits together like a crocheted blanket. I crochet, I don't knit. Sorry, I can only handle one needle at a time. Spunky moms. If you have a knitting circle, maybe I'll join. In some underground bunker somewhere. It is not a crime to be America first. It is not a crime to be a minority who's proud to be an American. It is not a crime to be white. And for saying all of those things, which I said at the conference that I spoke at that got me banned from Airbnb, the types of things that are getting other of my friends banned from flying on planes, which actually is not that bad, because who the heck wants to fly on a plane these days? But banking and making a living, all of this oppression must not be allowed. And I will end with the title of this speech and just urge you to be the wheat and not the chaff, to put on that full armor of God and to practice yourselves and preach to your children so that they can do it too. And when that new time of choosing comes, to defy and not comply. Thank you very much.
You are. Okay. Find my notes.
So hello again. My name's Ginger Coleman. We said that before. I do the website for this group. Let me start. Any candidates that came up earlier, I do need to see you because I need to get you on our website. I have a new assignment for for all of you. Michelle, court request, City of Colorado Springs homeless prevention. Guy's getting paid $150,000 a year to do nothing. Just so you know, used to work there. Another homework assignment for all of you, and this ties into what I'm going to do next. Google or DuckDuckGo our Constitution. You guys know that, right? Have you heard of the Constitutional Convention? 7 states away, guys. This election absolutely has to be taken over by us. We are 7 states away. That is not good. Exactly. 7 states away from having our Constitution rewritten. Do some research. Exactly. So tying into that, there are very, very few people in my life right now that I can call a hero, that I stand up, and I can tell every single day that I am proud to know or even follow. One would be Tim Kennedy. He's my hall pass. The other person would be Lauren Boebert. Yes. She's amazing. And the third person is walking up on the stage, Danielle Neuschwanger. She is endorsed by General Flynn, Mike Flynn, Trump election analyst Seth Keshel, the true grassroots candidates and the only native of Colorado, fighting for you and to take Colorado and save America and the criminal justice cowgirl. Please welcome Danielle Neuschwanger.
Okay, she's already put me on the clock. I haven't even started talking yet. Okay, so my name is Danielle Neuschwanger. I'm a native of Colorado, a cattle rancher, small business owner, and mom. And I'm running for governor of Colorado. So I spent 10 years in criminal justice before I opened up my real estate brokerage, and I used to travel across the nation doing mergers and acquisitions of multi-billion-dollar government contracts, aviation contracts, and healthcare contracts. I was a verbal de-escalation instructor. I ran mass casualty incidents and active shooter drills, and I taught first responders how to safely de-escalate aggressive or violent people. When I tell you that I'm ready to take on the nut house that is our state capital, I promise you I'm qualified. But if you're like me, I'm tired of elected officials who break the law and nothing happens to them. So I say, if they break the law, let me remind them what a jail cell looks like. When they want to take your freedoms, I say, let me show you what a pair of silver bracelets looks like. When they want to take your money out of your bank account while they're pandering to their elitist buddies, I say, let me put a freeze on that and give the money back to the people. I'm running for governor because you don't need an elitist politician. You don't need someone that's got bought and paid for in their donations as a candidate to run that special interest agenda up the totem pole. What you need is someone that's going to get in there and clean house. Someone that's going to get in there and make sure that we have lean, efficient practices. Someone that's not going to say one thing to give you lip service and then turn around and vote the opposite way. My promise to you as governor is that I will hold every single elected official accountable. And if they break the law, I will throw them in jail. If they don't vote how you wanted them to vote because you are the constituents, I will make it known. We will have a transparent government and we will take back our state to common sense practices. Now, as your candidate, I kind of have a little bit of a different platform. You see, I believe leadership, strategy, and engagement is what it's going to take to win. You see, everyone tells me you have to have money to win. Well, you know what? Those elitist politicians that have zeros in their bank account, they're not working for us. And I'm done with them. So I want to have a different strategy to get elected. I want to have a different strategy to bring back we the people. So first and foremost, leadership. We need to put subject matter experts in charge of the subjects that matter. Call me crazy, but would you ask a janitor to perform heart surgery on you? And yet, that's kind of the skill level that we're seeing at our state capitol. Recently, we got rid of Ellen Kessler, who is the state board veterinarian, animal rights activist, and 4-H vegan. Don't clap yet, because back in November, Governor Polis posted this position called the Board of Animal Health, and I immediately knew what was going on. They took everything bad out of the PAWS Act and put it into a position that he got to appoint for $150,000 a year. And today he made his appointment. He didn't listen to the Cattlemen's Association when they recommended 3 qualified, tenured candidates. Instead, he appointed Becky Nemec, who is from CSU and also an animal rights activist. So yes, we are now appointing as a favor to the governor, once again, another animal rights activist to work with our 34,000 ranchers and farmers across our state. It is our second largest economic driver, and he is trying to crush it. So much, in fact, would you guys like to know a secret? I got a copy of the budget a couple days ago, and I've been looking pretty heavily into it. And I'm like 5 pages in, and this line item just sticks out to me like a sore thumb. The taxpayers are now on the hook for $1.1 million to supply milk to inmates in our 20 facilities across our state. Why? Because we had a correctional facility that had a dairy attached to it, and Polis didn't like it. So he got rid of it. And so that dairy producing correctional facility that had an 80% rehabilitation rate, which meant that the offenders who left that program were less likely to commit an offense in the first 12 months of their release, is gone. Because he doesn't like agriculture. And now all of us get to pay $1.1 million to give milk to our inmates. It's ridiculous. Now, how many of you guys would like to know where the marijuana money's going? Let me tell you. Page 24 to 26 in the office of the governor. If you'd like to look it up, I've got a copy in my truck. $2.5 million was acquiesced by his office this year, with an additional $2 million in federal funds, to give back to the marijuana companies because their utility bills are too high. The money that should have been allocated for our children, for the mental health crisis that he created under COVID, our increasing juvenile suicides, or the fact that our schools are falling apart and your kids can't get a proper education because he's lining the marijuana company's pocketbook? Now, this is the kind of stuff that I'm talking about that I'm already tackling. Because I'm already working with their legislation. I'm asking them why this budget was ever approved. Why did they sign off on this without telling the people what was really going on? Strategy. We need a different strategy because here's the thing. I will never be able to outspend Governor Polis. Even if every single one of you here opened up your wallet and emptied your bank accounts, the guy is a multi-billionaire. That just makes him a bully with a pocketbook. I'm not afraid of bullies. I will outsmart him and I will outwork him using what he's already doing in our state against him. The last part of my strategy is engagement. First off, thank you all for being here tonight. This is exactly what America needs. We need more moms and dads and patriots to show up. But you know, as a mom, I believe in homework. I'm a scholar. And I'll tell you a funny story about how I locked myself in my school library when I was in 6th grade for a weekend, and I got busted by the school resource officer because I thought I could put trees on Mars. It's a very, very amusing story. But here's the thing. It doesn't stop here. You showed up tonight, wonderful. You saw an article, you follow Michelle Malkin, amazing. But now I need you to go outside, out of those doors, into the uncomfortable realm of talking to people who don't share the same values and have a conversation. I need you to go into schools and talk to juniors and seniors about the Constitution and voter registration because they don't get it in a civics class. I need you to hold your elected officials accountable when they break the law by not letting them get away with it. And when it comes time to vote, I need you to pay attention. We don't need any more elitist politicians who have a bank account. What we need is blue-collar boots on the ground who know how to work for a living and who are going to put you first. Now, I love Trump. Make America great again, phenomenal. And I'm a God-first candidate. I believe in America first. And what he did for America was really great. He got young people really fired up about politics. His mean tweets, they loved it. And they wanted to go out on every street corner and wave flags and put diesel rallies together. But the one thing he didn't do was tell you how to get involved. He didn't say join your local Republican Party. He didn't say run for school board. He didn't say run for city council. He didn't say become a spunky patriot. So here's what I'm going to tell you to do, along with your other homework. Keep that fire alive, because we will make Colorado the greatest state in the United States, and we will take back Colorado in 2022, and we will save America in 2024. I want to know if you will join me on my fight to become your next governor of Colorado. Thank you so much. Now, we do have a booth outside there, and so we'd like you to stop by and get some information. All of our t-shirts are made by nurses who've been laid off by the mandates. And so if you would like to donate to them, our campaign shirt says Armor of God on it, but I do have one that says Mental Terrorist, which is my nickname. So if you'd like to become a mental terrorist with me, if Biden's gonna give the Afghans billions of dollars, we have a team uniform, so can I get Javelin missiles? No? But thank you guys so much, and please follow me on all social media at Danielle for CO, or go to my website, danielleforco.com. Thank you guys.
Our next candidate to speak is Greg Lopez, who is also running for state governor. And where is he? Oh, there he is. Here you go, sir.
Well, good evening, El Paso County. You know, you may not know this, the Spunky Patriots are really what America's all about, and I'm so proud of what they've been able to do in the last couple of years, but I want you to know this. El Paso County, you are very important as it pertains to who's going to be the next governor of this great state. You are the #1 Republican county in the entire state of Colorado. Did you know that? And you are #3 in the nation. #3 in the nation. You should be proud. You should clap for that. Tonight, I want to have a serious conversation with you, because what we're doing here today is serious. In 274 days from now, the good people of Colorado will decide if Governor Polis deserves another 4 years as governor. Do you believe he deserves 4 years? I don't either. So, what are we going to do to make him a one-term governor? What are we going to do? Okay. Well, let me just share some numbers with you. Let me remind you that our voting bloc, we are few in numbers. Combined, there are over 2.7 million registered unaffiliated and Democrat voters in the state of Colorado, and only 950,000 Republicans. So we're severely outnumbered. But do not lose hope, because the future of Colorado lies in your hands. You will decide which candidate has the message that would not only appeal to the Republican voters, but also to the unaffiliated voters and Democrat voters as well. You see, to beat the governor, we must win 50% of the unaffiliated vote and 18% of the Democrat vote. If we do that, there will be a change in the governor's office. Now, some will say that Colorado is lost. Yes, Colorado is becoming California, but I say Colorado is not lost, at least not yet. If we unite as one voice and we allow our message of reform, practical solutions, and common sense conservationism across the state, we will once again make Colorado vibrant, friendly, affordable, safe, and a clean state once again. You see, the good people of Colorado are tired of the rich, powerful elitists in government and the so-called experts that are telling us how we should talk, think, work, and parent. Their misguided policies have caused more suffering for the poor and the middle class, resulting in significant lower quality of life throughout the state, and especially in the inner cities, where there is crime and homelessness, which is out of control. You see, the good people of Colorado are waiting for a message that speaks of freedom, responsibility, and prosperity. A message that speaks to the poor, the middle class, and yes, even the wealthy. One that encourages a free people to be responsible to choose their own path and live the best Colorado life that they can without government telling them how to do it. The good people of Colorado deserve a governor who respects them, who has a proven record of leadership and strong character. An individual that has earned the respect of the people and that their word can be trusted. Someone that shows respect to our values and traditions, to the Bill of Rights and the Constitution. Someone that believes that our individual freedoms and rights come from God, not man. You know, it is time for us to stop speaking to each other and start spreading the good message across the state of Colorado. You know, I've heard some people say that the Colorado dream and all that it once offered is lost. I'm here to tell you that it's not lost, at least not yet. Like many of you here tonight, 34 years ago, my wife and I, newly married couple, came to Colorado because we wanted to live that Colorado dream and have it fully experience it. You know, Colorado's economy back then was vibrant. The people were friendly. Housing was affordable. We had safe communities, and downtown Denver was clean. Today, under misguided policies, restrictions, and mandates, Colorado has lost what it once was. The rich, powerful elitists sitting underneath the gold dome believe that they know what's best for us and our families. They see the good people of Colorado as uneducated, incompetent, and lacking the skills to determine our own destinies. We, the people, are not interested in being controlled independent to government, unable to choose our own path. We, the people, want purpose, freedom, and responsibility to choose our own path so we can live the Colorado life that we want. You know, today our government is broken. It's upside down. We must work together to flip the power back to the people. We must put people in front of politics. What the people need now more than ever before is a governor that knows how to properly govern over the state and has the wisdom and the steady hand to get us out of the crisis of our healthcare system, within our schools, within our labor force, within our supply chains, with inflation, and with the price of gas, and with our water supply that we find ourselves in. A governor that has emotional intelligence and understands and recognizes that families are struggling with the increase of prices and the basic needs like housing, food, gas, and will openly acknowledge the failure of the public school system and the mental health issues that are impacting our children in our communities. It is time to put the fear and the mandates and the restrictions back into Pandora's box, where they belong, and start the hard work of rebuilding, bringing purpose, freedom, and responsibility back into our communities. It is our duty and our responsibility to educate our friends and family and neighbors about the false positive illusions that exist about the governor's ability to properly govern the state of Colorado. During the early days of COVID-19, he panicked, and with a stroke of a pen, he shut down over 600,000 small businesses across the state and destroyed the Colorado dream of millions of families. His actions caused Colorado's economy to spiral downward, just like it did in 2008. During the financial crisis of 2008, the worst economic disaster since the Great Depression of 1929, as the Colorado director of the United States Small Business Administration, along with my years of leadership experience in government and business, providing me with the wisdom and the steady hand to lead thousands of small businesses through that crisis. You see, small businesses are the heart and soul of every community. And the small business owners love their communities, and they always give back. They are the salt of the earth. I will never shut down small business. And under the Lopez administration, we will remove all the regulations that are stifling the success of small businesses. I will veto any bill passed by the legislature that cripples or undermines the success of small business. Crime in Colorado is the worst that it's ever been, and it's getting worse every day. The good people of Colorado no longer feel safe in their communities. We must restore public safety as our top priority. We, the people, demand it. You have a choice to make. The future of Colorado lies in your hands. You will decide if we will live in a state of prosperity, economic advancement, or we will live in a state of anxiety, fear, and depression. Don't drink the Kool-Aid. They want you to believe that we can't win. I'm here to tell you that I've been talking to the Hispanic community and the Black community, and I've been talking to union leaders, and here's what they tell me. Greg, we're sick and tired of the governor. We're done with him. You win your nomination, and we will make you the next governor of Colorado. So stand with me, and we will make Colorado a state we can all be proud of. Thank you very much. My name is Greg Lopez.
Go ahead on over there. Okay, I've never done this before. Bear with me. We are going to be asking questions of the candidates. We're going to start with one, move to the other, and then they'll each have an opportunity to rebut. Is it 1 minute each for a question and 30-second rebuttals? All right. This lady here, Larissa, is our timer. When she yells time, please observe that so we can get as many questions in here as we can. And these questions were all given to me from people that we emailed and texted that are part of this group. And I tried to be as concise with them as I could. Okay. We're going to go ahead and start with Danielle. And then dig right in. Okay. What is your position on intersectionality being taught in public schools, and are you in favor of minors having sex changes?
100% what the F? No. I absolutely do not believe in our radical sex education program. In fact, when I was growing up, we taught abstinence, and then we moved into safe sex. And then we had the teen pregnancy boom, and now we're going into this rhetoric of attacking the family structure. And so what we're doing is we're demoralizing intimacy. You have women who are celebrities who the only way that they can get attention is by getting up on stage half naked and working it for the men. What we have done is we have taught our daughters and our sons that we no longer value intimacy. The only way that we're going to get back to common sense is to put that narrative back in the home with the family where it should have been. It has been abused repeatedly. It has been twisted into something sick and sadistic. We have got to get it out. And we need to rebuild the family structure with good moral ethic principles.
Okay, Greg, did you need me to repeat it? No. Okay, good. Thank you.
Here we go.
You got it.
You know, as you look at what's happening in our country and our state, it is clear that there is a dark agenda trying to undermine the family unit. You know, they're trying to confuse our children. They're trying to confuse them and come home and ask that important question that parents struggle to answer because they're coming from school with it. Am I a boy or am I a girl? You know, and parents have stepped up in the last 2021 and said, not in my house. You know, you, the parents, went out and said enough. Enough with that. We must take our children's future back. We must unite, because if we don't, we're going to lose the most precious asset that we have, and that is our children. And that's exactly what they're wanting to do. They're wanting to take our children away from the parents. They're wanting to make sure that the children challenge their parents about what is right and what is wrong. As governor, I can assure you, not only will I use the executive power that I have, but I will also make sure that I speak about it publicly.
Okay, this one to you. Would there be anything you could do about the nurses or other employees who have been fired for not getting the vaccine so they can get their jobs back?
You know, it's sad. It's a sad day in America when we allow corporations to tell people that they must take a jab to keep their job. And if they don't take the jab, they're going to lose everything that they've worked for. You know, I was talking to an individual the other day, and she was telling me, hey, Greg, my husband worked for Raytheon for 25 years, one of the top engineers, and he's going to have to lose his job because he refuses to take the jab. You know, this is a tough one because there's only certain things the governor can do under his executive powers. But we can definitely put pressure on those corporations and hold them accountable for what they're doing, because it is wrong. It is just plain wrong. So I'm going to work with the legislature, and I'm going to work with other groups and organizations to see what we can do. But I'm not going to sit here and tell you that I'm going to do something just because it sounds right. But I will tell you is that it's wrong, and I will work hard to make sure that they get back the quality of life, everything that they worked for, because in America, that's what we should allow people to have.
Yes, and I'm already doing it. So my degree is in criminal justice with an emphasis in penology, so I really do read the criminal code for fun. When I was looking at the mandates, because I had a lot of nurses reaching out to me for this exact thing, and nurses, first responders, everyday average employees, different industries, they all were saying the same thing, what can we do? And first I would tell them, let them fire you, but make sure that everything they're doing is putting it in writing. Don't let them have conversations with you off the book. Make sure if they do have those conversations that someone in the room is recording them. And then when they fire you, file unemployment. And then file a Colorado Civil's complaint with the commission. Then file an EEOC complaint, because what you're doing is creating a channel of paperwork. What I found is that in Title 30, and it's 30-11-105 through 107.G, is that the county commissioners had the legal authority to challenge Governor Polis's executive order on August 6th. To stop all the mandates across the state and the terminations.
Our commissioners are too chicken to do that.
Most of them are.
Okay. Okay, Danielle. What would you do regarding mandates of masks, vaccines, and lockdowns? Would you end the health emergency orders?
So we're just going to pick up where we just left off. So yes, what I did is I started traveling across the state, talking to county commissioners and asking them as elected officials why they would not stand up to Governor Polis to stop all of this. Because his executive order on August 6th, when he mandated state employees get the jab or lose their jobs, and then on September 6th, when he mandated that their HR processes be violated for disciplinary processes, he committed first-degree official misconduct. He acted outside of his elected capacity, which in Colorado is a Class 2 misdemeanor. Your county commissioners have more legal authority than any private business or entity by themselves. What they should have done is stand up and file a lawsuit against Governor Polis right then. But what he did is he went to these county commissioners and told them he'd pull their licensing and their funding, and he promised them CARES Act. So our county commissioners cared more about trafficking your children and the employees than standing up for the Constitution. Re-elect new county commissioners, because if they didn't have the balls to stand up for you now, they won't in the future.
Greg?
You know, I can tell you this. The mask and the mandates and the restrictions were all wrong from day one. You know, they hide behind the science. Here's what we need to do. And some people must say, well, are you really wanting to do that, Greg? And the answer is yes. I want to make sure that the legislature changes the emergency codes where the governor can never again extend an emergency order past the first 30 days by himself. He must have the concurrence of the legislature. You know, I find it interesting that of all the Republican county commissioners out there, that not one stood forward. You know, I find that interesting because I truly know of strong Republican county commissioners. You know, but where's the legislature? Where's the Senate? Where's the House? Where's the people? Where's the DAs? Where are all these Republican officials that should know this, right?
Okay. Greg, here's your next question. Do you believe in life beginning at conception, regardless of circumstance, and doing no harm to this life until they die of natural causes?
I do.
Okay. Danielle. Yep. I agree. Yes. That was easy. Okay. Danielle, have you ever registered for any other party other than Republican? Why and when?
Never. I have been a lifelong Republican since I was able to vote when I was 18.
Okay. Greg?
You know, I guess I'm in the company of Ronald Reagan and President Trump because I registered as a voter in Texas at the young age of 16 when I got my license. And back then, you know, they would ask you, what party are you? And I turned to my mom and I said, Mom, what are we?
Yeah.
And she said, we're Democrats. And I said, okay, I'm a Democrat. But I changed party affiliations in 1994 as a sitting mayor of Parker, Colorado. And my mentor was Jim Nicholson, who later became the national chairman for the Republican Party and got George W. Bush elected. So for the last 28 years, I have been a Republican, and I'm so proud that my eyes finally opened.
Okay, Greg, what is your plan to fix the 2020 election? And what would you do, or what would you suggest we do for a more secure election process going forward?
You know, I'm going to answer that question as it pertains to the state of Colorado because I'm running for governor of Colorado. You know, there's a lot that we can do here in this state to make sure that our voter integrity is protected. You know, I don't know if you know, there's a lawsuit currently with the Secretary of State's office that's challenging, that outlines that those machines were not even certified by the Federal Elections Commission, and yet we used them. You know, we have our voter rolls are fraught with dead people. You know, I know of people that have received the same ballot in the House for 4 different individuals. We need to stop all that. You know, my solution is pretty simple. We get rid of the mail ballot, we go back to the polling place.
Danielle.
Are you guys aware that Tina Peters was arrested about 4 hours ago?
Yeah, boo.
Our Secretary of State in 2020 allowed her staff to work from home during the COVID pandemic on non-secured servers. And she continues to allow them to work from home, but she is breaking the laws of the Secretary of State under Title 24 and 25. Her coming after the county clerks for backing up images and saying they didn't have the authority, they do have the authority. They work for we the people. What we need to do is we need to shut down Jenna Griswold. And so we need to hold our elected officials accountable when they break the law. And I would like nothing better than to see that Grizzly Bear behind bars. I agree with Greg that we do need to get rid of the mail-in ballots and we do need to go back to the polling place. But also, we need to put laws in place to make sure that your votes matter for future generations and this never happens again.
Okay. All right. This one was just added from the audience. Danielle, how will you stop the flow of illegal aliens into our state?
Uphold the laws we already have and get elitist politicians out of the way. So because of my degree in criminal justice, I have been able to work with the alphabet soup for the last, I don't know, however long. How old am I? 34. 16 years. Okay, so here's what I can tell you. We have massive drug trafficking occurring on Highway 350, 50, 91, 24, 70. And recently, just a couple weeks ago, there was this massive car crash on 350. But what the media did not tell you was there was 2 cars that crashed that were full of illegal immigrants who were loaded down with backpacks full of drugs. And the state patrol told the rancher whose farm this occurred on, we can't get out to you. So he had illegal immigrants running through his 15,000-acre farm, and the sheriff said, sorry, under the current administration, we can't do anything, our hands are tied. Here's what I promise you. 287G under Article 8, we will make sure that every police officer in Colorado is an immigration agent, and I will stop the flow of drugs coming into our state. I will stop sex trafficking, and I will stop child pornography. We are gonna get tough on crime, and we are gonna make Colorado the safest state in the United States.
Greg.
It's true. Colorado is the worst state as it pertains to crime and what's happening with illegal immigration. But here's what we need to do. If we want the federal government out of our hair and never to interfere with us again, we need to make Colorado a 10th Amendment state. This is states' rights. And I will make sure that Colorado is not a sanctuary state. We will be a states' rights state. We will dictate who comes into our borders and who doesn't. We don't need to listen to the federal government. You know, we listen to them when it pertains to all these things that they're doing that's been bad for us. You know, we've already showed that we have the courage to be a state, a 10th Amendment state, because we legalized marijuana. It's still illegal in the federal government. And one of the important things that I want you to know that our issue right now with illegal marijuana, it's drying up our water systems. We need to stop those illegal grows because they take up so much water that right now Colorado is on the brink of running out of water. So we must make sure we protect our borders.
Okay.
Rebuttal.
Oh, go.
Rebuttal.
Go.
Okay, I just have one question. As a 10th Amendment state, how are you going to challenge the federal immigration laws that says we cannot deport illegal immigrants back to their home country because they have to be willing to accept them? And these foreign countries are not willing to accept their criminals back in their states. So how and what do you do with the illegal immigrants under a 10th Amendment state when the federal law prohibits us from moving them anywhere?
So here we go. One of the things that people forget is we have sovereign territory in the state of Colorado. There are reservations. We have the Southern Ute and the Mountain Ute. None of those federal laws apply in those reservations. I'm going to work with them to make sure that we bring in people legally into the United States and into Colorado, not illegally. And here's the thing: some people say you can't turn a state into a 10th Amendment state and protect states' rights. You know what? When I tell them we're not going to do that, and they threaten us in whatever capacity they want, I'm going to tell the federal government to take their money and go home, because we don't need them and we don't want them.
Okay.
Rebuttal.
Okay, we're going to do one more round of rebuttal.
Sovereign parts of our state are funded by the federal government. How do you offset the cost to the taxpayers?
That's not true. That is not true. I've worked in Indian country. As the United States Director of the Small Business Administration, I've been to Indian country. I've talked to the tribal leaders, and what you're saying is not correct. So we must always remember that it's always easy to claim something, but if you don't know, we need to ask the questions. Now, it's interesting that, you know, we're talking about what we can do with illegal immigration, because at the end of the day, I think we all will recognize that what we want people to come to America. We just want them to do it correctly.
Okay. Okay, good answers. I forgot who went first last time. Okay, thank you. Okay, let's see. Okay, Greg, what is your view on the UN Agenda 2030? Oh.
You know, when you talk about the UN and you talk about their agenda, did you know that a part of that agenda here in Colorado is the 30-30 plan? That by the year 2030, they're going to take 30% of all the public land here in the state of Colorado and put it under state control. The UN is doing nothing more than trying to create a world-dominated government. And we're the only ones that stand in its way. So once again, we must, like Michelle Malkin say, we must defy. We must be strong. We must stand against it, because in America, if we don't do it here in Colorado, we're going to lose everything our freedom. And remember this, we will only have as much freedom as we're willing to fight for.
One of the things that Trump did under his foreign policy, which I appreciated so much, was the fact that he stood up for the pay to play. And that's exactly what NATO and the UN have become, is a pay to play. The only problem is America seems to be footing the bill for everybody. So as it pertains to the 30-30 plan, I would just like to ask President Biden, when you can't manage the amount of national forests that you have now, why should we, the people, entrust you with 30% of our state? Also, because 32 million acres of land is privately owned in Colorado by ranchers and farmers who are not willing to sell their land to the federal government, how do they plan on taking that except for running bills like PAWS to try and bankrupt farmers? What we need legislators that are going to stand in the way between us and the federal government and protect mineral water rights and land possession in Colorado for the generations to come, which is why I propose an amendment to the Constitution for a Farm Preservation Act and reduce property taxes to make sure that farms and ranches stay in family ranches or generations for generations to come.
Okay. Danielle, is there anything you would encourage the legislature to rescind?
We don't have all night. Marijuana tax. The pause stuff, the attack on agriculture, the EPA regulations, the attack on our diesel industry, vocational trades not getting enough of the public funds or allocated higher education funds. All of the public education bills that have introduced radical education and criminal race theory. Racist theory. The list goes on and on and on. What it comes down to is, what can we the people do in 4 years, because a re-election is not guaranteed. On day one, we will go to work to make sure that we have a plan, and I'm already working on this with current legislators. What is our plan for when I'm the governor? How do we introduce repeal acts? How do we get stuff overturned? How do we educate people on where their food comes from? There's so much that has happened in the last 30 years in our state that we have to take back. And trust me, I plan on hitting the ground running, and I'm not really worried about what the Democrats have to say about it.
One of the good things is that I used to be a lobbyist in the Capitol, and I truly understand how bills become laws and how they do all the ins and outs at the Capitol itself. But the one bill that I would force and make sure that we pay attention to and repeal, or at least rewrite, is Senate Bill 2127. That is the bill that took away the immunity from police officers. Now they have to pay $25,000 out of their own pocket if something should go wrong or someone accuses them of doing something not appropriate. That is what's causing the crime rise here in Colorado. I'm going to tell you this, folks. If the good people of Colorado re-elect Governor Polis, he will complete his dark agenda, and he will make Colorado California. And his legacy will be homelessness, crime, drug addictions, and all kinds of sorts of things. Because all we got to know what the future of Colorado looks like is look to California, because it's coming. I have a message for Governor Polis. If he wants to live in California, he needs to move to California.
Yeah. Okay, this is our final question. What makes you qualified to be the governor?
Well, I've been blessed by the Lord, because I'm just like you. I come from humble beginnings. My mom and dad grew up working in the fields. But here's what I will tell you. I'm a veteran. At the age of 18, I raised my right hand and swore and took a solemn oath that I would defend our Constitution from both foreign and domestic. I am a mayor of Parker, Colorado, a former mayor, and I was a strong mayor. What does that mean? I was a mayor and the city manager. All the department heads reported directly to me. I sat on the board of E470. I sat on the board of the Denver Regional Council of Governments. I sat on economic development boards. I sat on the state small business board. I am the former president of the Denver Hispanic Chamber of Commerce. I'm the former president of the Rocky Mountain Minority Supplier Development Council. Most importantly, I'm the former director of the United States Small Business Administration. So for 7 years, I was the voice and face of small business. I know how to connect with people. I know the importance of being a true servant leader.
You know, I graduated high school early with an early acceptance to college, and I took a pretty vigorous course in criminal justice and penology. But also, at the age of 24, I was second to the vice president of the company that I used to work at, running multi-billion-dollar contracts and mergers and acquisitions. I was still in college, paid my way through college. And the thing about it is, look, you don't need another elitist politician that's bought and paid for. You need someone that understands what we, the people, need. A blue-collar, down-to-earth person who can apply the facts and get stuff done. When I look at the numbers now in the state, I am already developing plans and having conversations with our legislators about how we can cut the budget. The budget is the highest it's ever been, $40 billion, and we don't follow a population curve. So yesterday I introduced a population curve model to some of our legislators. I can cut the budget by 28% in the first year. In 4 years, if we follow that model, I could cut it by 122%. You don't need a politician, you need someone that has a plan and the analytics and academics to go after it. Whatever's on my resume doesn't matter. It's about you, the people, and putting you first. Thank you.
Can you folks please give a hand to both of these wonderful candidates? Great, great. Thank you. I have one last request of all you before you leave. Please consider dropping a few bucks in the basket back at the counter back there for our tech people. They did a great job tonight. And thank you all for coming. Oh, wait. What? Where's Garrett?
I'm not going to take much of your time. I just want to encourage you, next Tuesday night, the 15th at 6:30, we will have a caucus rally and a caucus training. If you guys are sick and tired of being sick and tired of these politicians that are in office right now calling themselves Republicans, I get in trouble all the time for calling them rhinos. You shouldn't call them names. You're a pastor. Okay, so I'm not going to call them rhinos anymore. I'm going to call them trans Republicans. They identify as Republicans, but they're actually Democrats. And if you want to know about that, we're going to be doing a caucus training as well as, kind of letting you know how to get these people out. The people with the 50% votes and the 60% votes and the 70% votes that are actually calling themselves Republicans, but are voting for CRT, abortion, and every other crazy thing that you would not believe. And so we're going to expose that. We're going to teach you how to go to caucus, how to win, how to become a precinct leader, how to become a delegate and take El Paso County back for real, true conservative values. So, one thing, here's the 4 words that you need to remember. America first, constitutional patriot. That is what they need to line up with. As Ulysses S. Grant said, he said, there's only 2 kinds of people in the country right now, traitors and patriots, amen? So, God bless you. Thanks for being here. My name's Garrett, and have a great night. Drive safely.